I understand how many folks are with us already. I can't see the attendant list.
It looks like we've got about 10 folks on right now.
Okay, well, I guess we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Oregon Department of Energy's Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. We're casting a webinar to help answer all questions that you may have. And I think we've won some sort of award for having the longest webinar title that I've ever seen. So hats off to us at this point. Let's see, on our next slide, I want to just introduce our EECBG team. That's a lot shorter version. I'm Roger Kainu. I'm an analyst with the organization, been with Energy for about 10 years now, and I'll hand it over to Emily.
Thanks, Roger. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Salmeri. I am one of our federal grants officers at ODO. I've been with the agency for just about a year now, and I'm sort of involved with all of the different federal opportunities that some of you have probably heard about coming to the state, and helping us acquire those funds and figure out what to do with them, and then track them as we go through these projects, making sure that we're using them appropriately. And I'll hand it over to Sarah.
Hi all, my name is Sarah Murkey. I'm the community navigator for the Oregon Department of Energy. I started last year in a new program, and my job is to help environmental justice communities access federal and state funding for energy projects. So feel free to reach out to me with my email on the screen on this project or this program. Probably Roger and Emily are the better people, but for any of our other programs that you're interested in, I'm happy to be the front door person. Thanks.
I like the way you put that, Sarah, the front door person. Very good. All right, we can get started with some program goals for the EECBG program. They're made available through Section 40552 of the IIJA to support local government projects. The aim is to reduce fossil fuel emissions, lower a community's total energy use, improve energy efficiency, and also or build a clean and equitable energy economy. Eligible activities. I'm going to cover these in greater detail later, but just in a broad brush attempt here, we want the eligible activities to be centered around energy efficiency. So building audits and retrofits that include grid interactivity, electrification, and home energy scoring. So those sort of messaging campaigns throughout your community. And then also energy savings performance contracts for efficiency and electrification of your own municipal buildings. I'm sure some of you have had ESPCs before, where you hire a contractor and they come out and do the energy work for you. And also we're including building efficiency and electrification campaigns. The next category is renewables, and that is solar installations and battery storage, such as power purchase agreements and direct ownership. Transportation is a third bucket, and that's centers around electric vehicles for municipal fleets, EV charging infrastructure for the community. Oh, and by the way, we're recording this. I think we probably mentioned that somewhere in here, but also this information will be available in the recording and the slides available on our website. So you'll be able to dig into that. And at the end of the webinar, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. So you can come back and say, hey, what about that slide? And I had a question about this or that. So just want you to be relaxed about what we're going to cover. Eligible entities. This is Emily's slide. So take it away, Emily.
They're great. Thanks, Roger. I'll also mention that this, apologize if you already said this, Roger, but this slideshow is posted to our website. So if we're going too fast for you, feel free to follow along through our website and download that presentation there, however you guys want to use that. One of the things I should probably just mention is that the EECBG award was given to us through the U.S. Department of Energy, and one of the requirements of this, and hence the reason we're talking to you guys today, is that we have to subgrant at least 60% of the funding that we received. And that's what we're getting ready to open this week. So one of the big questions that we've gotten around this program so far has had a lot to do with, am I even eligible to apply, right? So one of the rules is that you must be a unit of local government, pardon me. And so while we know that that obviously includes cities and counties, we've done a little bit of research and digging and found that that also includes other local government entities. So if you're curious about what that might include, or if you are one of these, that would be multi-jurisdictional regional governments and special service districts. There are 28 types of special service districts, and there's a small little link there at the bottom of the PowerPoint presentation that goes into the Oregon revised statutes about who is included in those special service districts. So the great news is that there are a lot more of you out there that are eligible to apply for this funding than just simply cities and counties. Another important thing that I just wanted to mention is that you must not otherwise be eligible for a direct EECPG award. And then there is a link that we can share with you guys about who is on that list of eligible entities for a direct award from the U.S. Department of Energy. More likely than not, you probably already are aware of this, but you can check that list just to ensure that you weren't already on it. And then just another important thing to note that the following types of entities are not included as eligible entities, and those would be Oregon Health and Science University, the Oregon State Bar, and then any intergovernmental entity that's been formed by a public body with another state or with a political subdivision of another state. And then any intergovernmental entity formed by a public body with an agency of the federal government. All right, next slide, please. Perfect. Thanks, Roger. So a couple of things about this particular program is that if you are selected to receive an award, awardees of this opportunity will be subrecipients of funds awarded to Odo, and you'll be identified as a subrecipient selected for a sub-award. I say a lot of sub here. What that means is that, you know, these are not state dollars, but rather they're subgrants passed through Odo using federal funds. So what that means is that subrecipients are going to have programmatic decision-making and responsibility for making progress against goals that you'll set, which will include regular project and financial reporting. And then the performance agreements will be between Odo and subrecipients, and they'll include required federal terms and conditions, including the flow down requirement of the terms and conditions to subrecipient contractors and subcontractors as applicable. All of these requirements you can find listed in the application on our website. Next slide, please. All right, so we'll jump into how do you even apply, right? So first off, the applications are going to be served through our customer service portal. So you'll need an account, and you can register for an account at any time starting today. So that portal link that's there, you can start by accessing that. And then the actual portal to apply will open on Friday, March 22nd. And one of the things to know about this particular program is that this is not a competitive program. So we're not collecting all of these applications and we're going to be reviewing them on a competitive basis at the end of the deadline there. We're going to be awarding them on a rolling basis on a first come, first serve basis. So you can see in the opportunity announcement that's on our website, the criteria that you need to hit in order to be eligible. So yeah, we'll have these funds available first come, first serve on a rolling basis. So they may be expended before the deadline. We may have obligated all of the funds before then, but otherwise the portal will close on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. And then there's a little email address here where you can send any questions that you might have about the application and the program itself. And we'll do our best to try to keep a frequently asked questions document updated for you all to see. Next slide, please. All right, so the package, the application package, submittal process, it's going to be through the portal website only. So we're not going to take applications, you know, emailed over to us or sent in via US mail. We'll receive, the ones that are received after the deadline won't unfortunately be able to be considered. And just make sure that you have all the required information uploaded and submitted through the portal in order to be considered. Much of the details of application itself we'll go over here in just a second, but those will be submitted in form fields through the portal website itself. But there are a few additional things that need to be uploaded as attachments with the application, and I'll go through those, but there are four main things here: the SF424A, the budget justification workbook. There's an authorized application letter that's required, and a Davis-Bacon assurance letter. So the authorized application letter is basically written authorization from the applicant's governing body, and just assuring that you have permission and allowing you to submit this application on behalf of whatever entity you're hailing from. And then the Davis-Bacon assurance letter, this goes back to one of the federal requirements for this particular program, which includes the Davis-Bacon Act. So if you're doing any groundbreaking construction activity, there is a Davis-Bacon component to the program, and this is just attesting to the fact that you're going to comply with that. All right, next slide, please. All right, so starting the application, this is where you will enter in all of the contact information. So your organization name, the address. The principal investigator and the business officer are two different contacts that we'd like to see. It's possible that it may be the same person, but essentially the principal investigator is going to be likely your project manager, whoever's sort of going to be the primary point of contact for the project itself. And then the business officer should be the person that's authorized to approve and sign the performance agreement with the state, likely somebody who's going to be managing, your reporting. And just to give you an example, for the case of Odo here, Roger is our principal investigator for this award, and I am the business officer. And then the tax employer identification number is pretty standard. The other thing I want to mention is the UEI, which is a unique entity identifier. If you've ever applied for federal funds before, you're probably familiar with this number. But if you don't have one, it's obtained through the System of Award Management, or SAM, as we like to call it. So if you don't already have one of these, it's pretty easy to register, and we'll give you a link for that to obtain that UEI number. And then lastly, on this main screen, you'll be selecting your blueprint, which is identifying your intended project. And I will pass it over to Roger to talk about the different blueprints.
There's actually a question in the chat about that last slide that maybe is helpful to stop right now and answer. Can number 3 and 4 on this list be the same person?
Yeah, they can be, for sure. If you're coming from a smaller entity where, you've only got a few people in your office working on these projects, absolutely. That's totally feasible.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so as indicated, I wanted to talk to you in more detail about these blueprint options. These were designed by the US DOE, so they gave us some sort of context of what to offer. And here's how we built them out. Under energy efficiency, one of the options is to do building audits and retrofits, which can include grid interactivity, electrification, and home energy scoring. In this bucket, the intent is really to give cities the ability to message their community, determine those households that are interested in these sort of messages, grid interactivity, electrification, and home energy scoring, and then offer those on a free basis. So I want to make real clear, with home energy scoring, there's usually a fee that the market allows, and that is to the assessors out there that'll come to your home and charge around $200 for a home energy audit. And there's lots of folks out there willing to do this kind of work. Odo has an actual home energy score program and works with Earth Advantage to make this work. So what Oregon Department of Energy will do, if you choose this option, we will work with you to make this happen. You can use the EECBG funds to pay those assessors for their fee, and then get home energy scores and other messages conducted within the low-income community. our focus is really getting after the low-income community, because that's kind of an untapped resource that we haven't got to. And it also satisfies some of the requirements for from the federal level with regard to Justice 40. I can talk more about that at the end of this webinar, but just so you know, Odo will hire a contractor for you to work with. And with that, there'll be a lot less impact on your community to roll out a program for audits, assessments, and that sort of thing. As indicated before, the next one is energy savings performance contracts. This will be on you to go out and identify a contractor to do work on your municipal buildings. I think many of you have done this before, so you know the path for that. And then also you can break out and just do building efficiency and electrification campaigns on your own, and use your funding to hire a contractor to go do that work. Under the renewables category, we're focused on solar installations with battery storage. And you can work with your utility on that. That would be the best way to do that. So you're meeting all their needs for how to contact the power from the resource to their lines to go back and forth. That gets to be a pretty heavy lift if you try to do that sort of thing without their involvement. Also on the transportation option, we're including electric vehicles for municipal fleets. That means go out and buy a electric vehicle for your municipal fleet. And then the other option is for EV charging infrastructure for the community. So some really some good options here. And I think you can easily choose one and develop a proposal. Under the implementation plan, you need to have a list of the project team members, the roles, lines of authority, and that sort of thing, the experience with similar projects, just something brief. It doesn't need to be super comprehensive. A detailed construction plan and project schedule with major milestones, including the target operational date of the system. That's where you'd want to have a little more detail. The schedule there must show construction beginning within 12 months of the execution of the performance agreement and will be completed within 24 months of the execution of the performance agreement. So it's got a shorter window than a lot of other projects, but these aren't really lengthy projects either to install. Next bullet, a description of how the applicant will manage planning, construction, and system startup, include a commissioning plan if developed. If there is one developed, I think having something that just to describe what your quality assurance will be, how you might follow up and make sure the project was completed as designed. Next bullet, a description of material availability and whether the materials are on hand or readily available. Include an approximation of timeline for availability of materials. Yeah, it's been an issue in the past getting those materials, so that's why this bullet lays in there. Supply chains have been an issue. A detailed description of the project operations plan post-construction. The applicant should show how the project will be operated, the estimated costs, and how maintenance and operation will be adequately funded. So those are the things in the implementation plan we'll be looking for. I don't think you need to be heavily descriptive, but I think you need to cross all those dots, cross all those T's and dot the dots. There's also a community benefits and equity considerations that you'll need to fill out. A description of qualifying communities' involvement in project development and operations. This could include, but is not limited to, descriptions of surveys of the local community, attendance or participation at public meetings, and community ideas and recommendations incorporated in the project plan. Also, a description of any equity framework used by applicant in developing the project. A description of the level of direct energy cost savings to families and small businesses that will result from the project. A description of the level of economic development that will result from the project. And information on the number and types of jobs directly connected to the awarding of the grant that will be created by the project, as well as sustained through construction and operation of the project. So there's 3 categories there. And then, if applicable, a description of how the project would integrate with broader community energy and environmental goals. And just so you know, we've been working with the larger cities that got a direct grant from the federal level and asking them, did you connect with your local cities or the tangential cities around them to know, understand what they were doing? So we're all sort of rowing the boat in the same direction. We know what each other are doing, and we can play off of that and actually benefit in greater dimension. So also we have identified program process metrics. This is a key. The EECBG program requires quarterly performance reporting, which includes capturing metrics available to your project. Please review the process metrics here at this link and identify which metrics item will be collected to report on should your project be selected. And also metrics should be selected from the third column and should pair with your appropriate project selection, meaning the home energy scores should select metrics from metric area number 8, such as number of buildings energy audits are performed. If you're going to do home energy scorings, it's probably a good idea to understand how many of them you've done out there in the community. All right, next slide. Emily, I think it's back to you.
Sure, yeah. All right, so another thing that we're looking for in the application, and this looks like a lot, but it's really not. But one of the things that we have to do as the state is do a risk assessment and ensure that the folks that we're going to be handing this money out to are capable of managing an award and reporting upon it. So we're looking for these bullets here. I won't go through every single one of them, but basically ensuring that you have followed terms and conditions if you've ever had an award before, if you've had experience with similar programs, to describe a little bit of that, and then policies or procedures that you might have for ensuring compliance with the terms of the award. All of these things are listed in the application instructions, which are also going to be on the web page in great detail. Next slide, please. All right, there's some good stuff about Justice 40. So one thing I want to do is just give you a little bit of background in case you're not familiar with what Justice 40 is, or if you hear us call it J40 for short. Justice 40 is part of an executive order that was signed by President Biden back on January 27th of 2021, and it set forth some prioritizing actions to tackle the climate crisis. One of those things was the Justice 40 initiative, and it directs that 40% of the benefits of certain federal investments will flow to disadvantaged communities. This is one of those programs. So if you're wondering what a disadvantaged community is or how it's defined, the Council on Environmental Quality was tasked by the White House with defining disadvantaged communities, and they used a number of different data sets to show the communities that are most overburdened and underserved in the following categories: fossil dependence, energy burden, environmental and climate hazards, socioeconomic vulnerabilities. And within those main categories, there's several subsets of information that they were looking at, including, I'll just name a few: housing and energy costs, low income, lack of indoor plumbing, and wildfire risk, but there's many more. Those communities are determined at the census tract level, which are going to be small units of local geography. I'm sure that you're familiar with those. Every 10 years, you probably get that call or knock on the door to fill out your census survey. So the boundaries for this statistical data is determined once every 10 years by the U.S. Census Bureau. And I'll also just mention, even though federal tribes do have their own set aside for the EECBG funds, just for the purposes of understanding the map, lands within the boundaries of federally recognized tribes are also included in this CGEST map. And I see that Sarah dropped the link for that map. Thank you so much. So within this program itself, we're looking at how your strategy can support the goal that 40% of the benefits will flow to disadvantaged communities. And one of the ways is just knowing that your community is within this map. Some of your communities might be overlapping. Part of your community is depending on the census tract and how it works, might be within the map and not within the map. But the main thing here is that we'd like to see metrics that are identified that show measurable data that you can track throughout the life of your project, which is likely going to be a 2-year period of performance, and how you can collect information that shows that the funds are benefiting folks in disadvantaged communities. So there is a list, I'll drop a link to, for potential metrics that are ideas to think about. They're not all inclusive. So if you have an idea for a metric that you'd like to track that ties directly to the type of project that you're working on, feel free to suggest something new that's not included on that list. We'd love to see something unique. Next slide, please. All right. So we're all done talking at you. This is going to be an opportunity for you guys, if there's any questions that you have for us regarding the process.
It looks like Matt raised his hand.
Matt, it looks like you're off mute now. Oh, no, you're back on. There you go.
Okay. Thanks for the seminar. I just learned about this yesterday on the League of Oregon Cities page and jumped on it. Most of this doesn't apply to me, but I am attending because I'm doing this with a direct award. And Emily, I've appreciated what you've offered as far as, advice and stuff. The one question I have is, you answered the question that we can't double dip, basically. As a direct federal awardee, we can't jump on this through through ODA, Department of Energy, right? That's confirmed. So I can't supplement a state program, state offering with what I'm getting directly from the federal government. That's correct?
Right. So if you're meaning that you can't supplement it with this particular award or any other federal award, yeah, you can't overlap them. However, there's a caveat to that. Two caveats. One is if there's any offerings that we have that are available with state funds that you can overlap, such as our CREP opportunity, which I think just opened for the 3rd round. I may not be accurate on that, but I know that the 3rd round is either open or getting ready to open. So those are state funds, and that's an allowable thing to do. And that's where this gets to be a little bit complex in understanding just where the money is coming from. In this case, it's federal money, so you can't stack federal money upon each other.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll just mention, Matt, I'm sorry, I don't know where you're coming from exactly, but if your city or county received a direct award,
yes.
Where, I'm sorry?
Sorry, from the city of Oregon City.
Oh, okay, perfect. So great, I'm glad that you guys are taking advantage of that opportunity. If your county was ineligible for the funding, the county can receive funds, whereas the city, let me rephrase that. The county could potentially receive funds through this award, even if you do for your city have your own direct EECBG award from the U.S. Department of Energy. One example I'll give you of that seems really odd is Multnomah County. I don't know if Multnomah County is on the line, but they're eligible to receive a direct, a award through us, through ODO, because they didn't and weren't eligible for a direct award from EECBG, even though Portland was. Portland got their own award. So that's just an example of where that might work out.
Okay. The second and more important question to me is ODO requiring the energy efficiency and conservation strategy that I'm reading about in the federal level? Because that seems to be my biggest obstacle my biggest hurdle is, and if you guys aren't requiring that, that's fine. But I know that strategy seems to be like the non-negotiable starter that has to be done at some point. So I'm actually considering using my direct federal awards to complete the strategy. And I'm working with the federal DOE to determine that. But since I'm on this call, how is the state handling that?
Yeah, great question. We had to complete the energy efficiency and conservation strategy This is why they create acronyms, right? The EECS is so much quicker.
Yeah.
We had to, as the state, do a version of that for our application, which was accepted. We're not requiring our subgrantees to create their own version of that, no. But I like the idea of you guys working with DOE on that, because I do know that they have technical assistance available to help cities craft that EECS. So that's a good option.
Is there a way to forfeit the federal direct and go through the state?
Unfortunately, no. I'm sorry.
Because we just drew the short straw by being a direct federal awardee. That's awesome. So somewhat sarcastic, but appreciate your information today. Thank you.
Sure, you got it.
We have a few questions in the chat. Peter, I'm going to put my email in the chat. If you don't mind emailing me, I'm happy to connect you or get that answer about your email in the portal not working. The first question for the group is, why is it a first come, first serve basis instead of a competitive review?
Great question. Roger, I'm happy to answer that unless you want to.
Go ahead, Emily.
One of the things that Roger and I, and you know, through engagement with different stakeholders, including many of you, is understanding how we could rapidly deploy these funds and get them out. The focus is really on Justice 40 communities and making sure that disadvantaged communities. So the focus is on that in this first round. If we have funds available after the first round, we will have a second round of funding available. Going back to the question about why first come, first serve, not competitive, it really comes down to a timing thing. With this particular program, there is a federal statute that requires that we make these subgrants within 180 days of receiving the federal funds. And since we received the federal funds in December, that puts us somewhere in June, without doing the math, exactly, somewhere in June, that we have to have subgrants made available. And the process of doing a competitive grant program is just a little bit more time consuming and lengthier. But Roger, feel free to add on that if I'm missing something.
Yeah, no, I think Emily said it really well, and under a lot of pressure to get this out and decided upon quickly. Not exactly sure why the federal level wanted to have a 180-day requirement to get these funds out there, but we're just playing the game along with them. So that's the main reason.
And then the other question that's in the chat is from Meredith Howell, and it says, do cities have to go through an open public process with their intent to seek these funds like other CDBG programs through Business Oregon, Community Development Block Grant programs through Business Oregon?
Emily, you got that one?
Sure, yeah. So no, not formally. Not in the way that I think that I'm reading into this. We would love to see you guys engaging with your communities and just, you know, making sure everybody's aware that you're going to be, especially if it's a particular project. I apologize because I am not the technical expert. That's Roger when it comes to some of the details of these energy efficiency programs. But if it involves you having to work with your utility or, you know, your water district, whatever your project details are going to, you know, entail, you really showing some collaboration with others that might be involved in helping to make this work and be efficient. I hope that helps.
Some cities do have a public process that they're required to go through in order to apply for a grant, but the community development block grants do have to have a very specific public process that is not the same as this one.
Great. Yeah. I mean, and that's a great clarification. I should just say that, you know, this program doesn't require it, but if your community requires it, then that's another story.
There's just a comment here from Lisa. It says it's likely that disadvantaged communities will be capacity challenged and not as likely to be able to respond quickly to a first come, first served opportunity. Of course, that's a generalization and I could be wrong, but it does look like Peter is agreeing with that comment. I think that's the reason why we have tried to make this process as easy as possible while also being, you know, very understanding of the federal requirements around it. That's kind of the hope of giving the blueprint and giving the options so that it's as easy as possible for communities to access, understanding the capacity challenges in a lot of disadvantaged communities.
Yeah, I'll just second that. You know, it's it's we relate, we understand, and it's sort of a difficult line to walk in making sure that we're complying with the federal requirements, and like Roger said, crossing our T's and dotting our I's, but also trying to not make it overly burdensome for you all. So we totally get that. One of the things, like Sarah was mentioning, those blueprints, one of the great things about selecting activities, and I dropped links to all of those different blueprints in the chat. There are allowable activities within those links that are quick, easy things that you can tackle that are allowable. And not only are they allowable, but they are, they've already been NEPA approved. So that's the National Environmental Policy Act. Sorry, too many acronyms today. So those blueprints have already had sign-offs for NEPA, so we won't have to extend the the process of having to research and do background on those blueprints.
I agree, Lisa. I think the blueprints will help. And then there's another question from Meredith here that says, can we combine these funds with Odo's community heat pump just reservation funds, community heat pump deployment program reservation funds?
I love that idea. I don't know the full. I'm more knowledgeable about all of our federal programs, and so I don't know the details of what's included with the community heat pump program. Super great, but I do know, because those are state funds, you certainly can layer them with the federal funds if there are activities in there that can complement each other and supplement each other without sort of supplanting. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think one of the great ideas that I would see with that is the energy audits is not the right word, but thank you, Roger. That could be kind of step one, and this program could pay for those, and then those same homeowners or residents could use that fund to install a new heat pump. I know a lot of weatherization and programs. I know Meredith from NeighborWorks, the type of work that your organization is already doing benefits from residential home audits, and they could kind of be layered on top of that if you could find a public entity that would fund that grant or could help that grant application across the board.
And
yeah, I'll just say that. Oh, I'm sorry, Roger, go ahead.
I was just going to say the idea of stacking is going to get crazy, but it's really a useful tool. You also have the Energy Trust of Oregon. They have incentives. And also we have the Homes in Here program coming out, where there'll be incentives available for some energy saving products there too. So understanding how you can stack all those and create benefit in your community is just going to be super valuable.
Yep, you took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
That's perfect.
I'm not seeing any other questions. If please feel free to drop them in the chat as you think of them, if anything. Meredith says, is there a budget template?
Yes, thank you. And I'm so glad, Meredith, that you brought that up. I thought that I was going to have the opportunity to talk more about that budget in one of these slides somewhere, and I must have missed it. I apologize, but there is a template, yes. And the template, we have posted on our website all of those 4 mandatory uploads already. So they're available for you guys to download and start working through in advance of the portal being open. So great question. One other thing that I'll just mention, I know I talked about the 2 letters, the authorized applicant and the Davis-Bacon letter. There are templates available. You don't have to use them. They're just there to hopefully make it easier for you guys. The other thing is that there's 2 budget documents. So the SF424A is a very typical federal budget document. These things are a little annoying because sometimes they're duplicative of each other, but essentially the way that I look at it is the SF424A is a really high level budget document, And then the budget justification spreadsheet is really where you get into like the meat and potatoes and the nitty gritty of what you're including in your high level budget. So they should match up to each other, but the budget justification is a really good tool for you guys to lay out what you plan to spend funds on so that we can give approvals and make sure that all of those costs are allowable, allocable, and appropriate.
And also, Sarah, did you want to mention the opportunity with Pacific Power?
Yeah, I'm
It's,
happy to.
available.
Yeah, just as a note, Pacific Power, if you are a Pacific Power customer, has some specific projects for EVs and particularly around EV charging and the purchasing of purchasing of electric vehicles. If you, again, are interested in learning more about that, please feel free to reach out to me. I've put my email in the chat. I'm happy to talk more about that, including matching funds for this program. So they have a program that they'll match funds for grant applications to kind of almost double your money for electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging. I'm happy to, again, get in contact with that or get you in contact with the people over there. Fuji asks, sorry if I missed this, but do subcontractors have to be on ODO's approved list, like for solar and heat pump installers?
Not on solar and heat pump installers, but for the ESPC, the Energy Services Professionals, those contractors are on a list, and we provide that list within the application document.
So if someone was going to do an energy savings performance contract, yes, we have a list that they're required to use that. However, if a community was going to do solar or heat pump installations and go that track with the blueprint, then they would not have to use the provider list that we have.
Correct.
I would say it's a great provider list though. So if you're looking for a solar provider and you don't know where to start, it's a really great list, and they have been vetted to be on that list. So it's not a bad place to start. And if you know a solar provider that's not on that list, they should be on that list. So let them know that they should be on our list. Same with the heat pump program.
Never stop selling. Other questions?
Oh, Meredith said limit of administration cap, I would assume, for this for the projects.
Good question. I am going to double check to ensure that this is a flow down requirement. I just don't want to 100% say that this is right, but our administrative cap at the state is 10% for these funds. But with your projects that you're going to be submitting, there's likely going to be more direct costs that are attributable to your program. So a direct cost might be something like a program manager or staff to implement your approved activities. So unless it's truly an indirect cost, which we talk a little bit about in the application, indirect costs, this is a whole other conversation, but everybody sort of looks at them differently, direct versus indirect, every community, every state. But you have a couple of different options. If you have a negotiated indirect rate agreement with a cognizant agency of the federal government, so if you've ever basically had federal funds before, you're required to use that indirect rate that you have already had negotiated consistently across any programs that you have received federal funds for. And we'd like to see a copy of that agreement if you do have one. If you do not have an indirect rate agreement, you are welcome to charge a 10% de minimis rate is the federal regulation for what that rate is. And so there are more details I can drop in the chat about these Code of Federal Regulations and what all, if you ever want to geek out on this stuff, but what all the allowable and unallowable costs are for federal programs. I'll find that for you guys. And I will confirm what the administrative cost cap is. Maybe we'll do that in the FAQ document.
Cool. Oh, Eleanor says, is there a way for a city to find out if there are nonprofit applicants within our boundaries to avoid duplicate or overlapping applications?
There shouldn't be any nonprofit applicants, just because the funding for this particular program has to be a unit of local government or a state or a tribe. So if it's a nonprofit, there shouldn't be anybody receiving funds for that.
Final call. If I was a auctioneer, I'd be doing that fancy voice thing right now. Oh, Meredith coming in with a fantastic question. Since this is different than Business Oregon's Community Development Block Grant Program, can a city have multiple open CDBG grants and still apply here? Yes.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, yes. As long as you are not funding the same exact activity, in essence, double dipping. So you can certainly have multiple different federal grants, including the CDBG and EECBG. That's a mouthful.
Are we back?
One more. We can hear you, Roger. If you're.
Yeah.
We can't see you, but we can hear you. And then Jim has the question, will this pay for city or county staff to get paid from the grant?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I should caveat that with if the staff is going to be, directly involved in administering the program, whether they're going to be a program manager or, somebody with boots on the ground doing the work.
Did I miss any questions?
I think you missed a few, but Emily did a great job. They are more technical. They were less technical, more technical to the grant administration. Okay, final call. Every time I've said that, there's been a couple more questions, so
Yeah.
I'm happy for it. Okay.
Did we get the EECBG email address in the chat?
No, we didn't. That's a great that's a great one to put in there. I did put the project page in the chat up a little bit, but we do have a specific email for EECBG questions. So if you get off of this and have a specific question, feel free to use that to connect with staff. Perfect. I think we're good then.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending, and make sure you use that email address for any questions you may have. Thanks, and have a great afternoon. It looks like a lovely one.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.